Hello guys, Belle here. Gonna be doing a video on the balanced Druid. So Druid largely is one of the most fun classes to play because it can swap at the drop of a hat to tanking, healing, feruling, all the things. Obviously it surrounds nature, and balanced Druids are pretty powerful in Warlords of Draenor, especially when it comes to PvP. A nice class to play, pretty enjoyable to that end. So let's talk about the state of play for the balanced Druid and some of the basic core abilities that you're going to be dealing with as a balanced Druid. Obviously you're going to be dealing with Moonfire, Sunfire, your Lunar Strike, Solar Wrath, Star Surge, Starfall. Your Mastery is going to be, that's going to be your Starlight. So this is basically what you're going to be dealing with in large part, as well as the blessings of the ancients. So with the way that the balanced Druid works, balanced Druid, everybody knows what they are. You have your moon, you have your sun, you cusp on the balancing act when it comes to those type of things. That's basically what that means. So let's get into what we are looking at spell-wise. So here's going to be your spells. Large part, you guys already know what these are. For the most part, don't really have to get in too much to that. The new moon's pretty awesome. Just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what we're looking at spell-wise that's here. And then let's get right into the talent breakdown. Now, this is probably going to be pretty different than what you're used to, as most of your talents for all of your specs and classes have changed quite a bit over the course of the time here. So let's talk about what this means. So for your first set of talents, you're dealing with Force of Nature. This is an instant cast. It's a 1 minute cooldown. Summons a strand of 3 Trenants for 10 seconds, which immediately taunts and attack enemies in a targeted area. Pretty legit, awesome to have in certain situations. Warrior of Elune, this is also another instant cast spell. 45-second cooldown on this one. Your next 2 Lunar Strikes are instant cast, which does make makes it a lot easier for you to be able to do some type of damage rather quickly with it being instant cast. Then you have the Star-Lord. I did appreciate the Star-Lord because I'm a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, so I did appreciate this. It is a passive ability. Your lunar and solar empowerments also reduce the cast time of their affected spells by 8%. Now, your next set of stuff here, you're looking at Renewal, Displacer Beast, and Wild Charge. These are things that are not new when it comes to being any kind of a Druid. Renewal, of course, is an instant cast, 2 minute cooldown, of course, instantly heals you for 30% of your maximum health. It is usable in shapeshift forms. This is going to be your self-heal, and then you also have your Displacer Beast. This teleports you 25 yards moving forward. This is specifically good in PvP when it comes to being a flag carrier. So this is pretty legit, also very handy in a lot of situations. And then you have your Wild Charge, grants movement ability that varies by shapeshift form. So if you are not shapeshifted, you know you're flying to an ally's position, bear form, charge to the enemy, immobilizing them for 4 seconds. So this also does give them a stun. In your cat form, you leap behind the enemy, dazing them for 3 seconds. I know that could be quite frustrating when you're trying to fight a Druid. They're in front of you, and then they're not. Moonkin form, bound backward, travel form, leap forward 20 yards, and of course in your aquatic form, does increase swim speed by an additional 150% for 5 seconds, which is pretty quick if you're trying to get out of there without dying of fatigue. So with the next set of things that we do have the Feral Affinity. Now with that, it is passive. Here's what you get from this: your feline swiftness. So this does increase your movement speed by 15%. The thing about this is 15% isn't a whole lot, but it's still enough to take notice for those of us that travel a lot. You'll also learn Shred, Rip, Ferocious Bite, and Swipe, which are feral Druid abilities. This is kind of nice to be in balance and to be able to have these specific abilities. I'm digging that vibe. I think that was pretty neat. And then you also have the Guardian Affinity, which gives you Thick Hide, which reduces all damage taken by 10%. This is really, really nice in the case of a lot of solo gameplay and not wanting to be as reliant on heals as you need to be. With that, you also learn your Mangle, Thrash, Iron Fur, and Frenzied Regeneration, which is Guardian abilities. Pretty nice, liking it. And then you, of course, finally, of this tier set, you do have the Restoration Affinity. Now, obviously, this is Ysera's gift. Heals you for 3% of your maximum health for every 5 seconds. This is a great hot ability for yourself. And if you're at full health, a random nearby ally will be healed instead. This gives you Rejuvenation, Regrowth, and Swift Mend. This is going to be really, really great for a lot of different instances, especially for you being able to be self-sufficient and being able to heal yourself. Now, you're going to have to choose here between these situational ones where Guardian might be good for a lot of solo gameplay because you do get some of those Guardian abilities, and the Feral Affinity might be a nice matchup in certain PvP scenarios where you might want to just go Feral for 5 minutes. So I do appreciate that. I do think this is probably my favorite of all the different sets to have to choose from in your gameplay, and this of course is going to be according to what your needs are. We all know what Mighty Bash is. This is not new to Druids. Replaces Nature Control. This is an instant cast. It is 50-second cooldown. All targets. That's what happens when you read different tooltips, guys. This does invoke the spirit of your sock to stun the target for 5 seconds. Is usable in shapeshift form. This is going to be a good thing for PvP, obviously, for, you know, those reasons, because it's a stun. So this is going to be nice. You also have your Mass Entanglement. These are really, really good for PvP maps, such as Silver Shard Mines, when you're trying to keep them outside of your cart, and possible flag carrying maps when you have to mass root all the parties involved, when you're either trying to kill the flag carrier and keep him from running, or save your flag carrier and allow him to get away by entangling those attacking him. Your Typhoon is useful in a lot of situations, and 99% of them, in my opinion, is for PvP. Blowing people off. This is a really, really good knockback when it comes to certain things like dealing with Lumber Mill in Battlegrounds and being able to knock parties off that. Same thing with Eye of the Storm in randoms. In your random Battlegrounds, you have the ability of blowing people off. In RBGs, not so much. It's a little bit harder. Still a really good knockback ability. So you do have those 3 to choose from, where before you did not. This is... I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say it's a sense of humor on Blizzard's part, because for the Destruction Warlock, they did the same thing. They took 3 of my most used things and made me choose between one of them for certain situations. So there's that. You do also have the Soul of the Forest. This is a passive ability. It increases the damage bonus from Lunar and Solar Empowerment by an additional 15%. Now, this also does reduce the Astral Power cost of Starfall by 10. Pretty useful passive ability, in my opinion. Incarnation, which is the Chosen of Elune. This replaces Celestial Alignment. This is a huge cooldown. It's a 3-minute cooldown. An improved Moonkin form that increases the damage of all your spells by 40% and causes your Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath to generate 125% additional Astral Power, which Astral Power is super important here. It does last 30 seconds. You can shapeshift in and out of this for improved Moonkin form for the length of its duration. Pretty nice 30-second situation out of that whole deal. And then, of course, you have your Stellar Flare. This is a cast time. It does consume 30 astral power. It burns the target for an additional amount of astral damage, and then an additional 246,000 damage over 24 seconds. This is a huge... I'm going to repeat. This is a huge thing. I do have it down here on my bar already. This is what I chose just because the massive amount of power. Keep in mind the 246,000 damage over the 24 seconds. That's just my base with your basic kind of shit gear. So, well, it's not really shit gear. Let me not lie. I have the combatant's gear, which PvP gear is what you get for being 110 on the PvP server. Your Stellar Flare benefits and your Starfall Stellar Empowerment, your Stellar Flare does benefit from the Starfall Stellar Empowerment. So a lot of intertwinement happening here, and I think this is pretty nice. For your next set, you've got your Shooting Stars. This is passive. Moon and Sunfire damage has a 10% chance to call down a falling star, dealing an additional amount of astral damage and generating 5 astral power. I don't really know. I mean, it's a passive ability, and you have a 10% chance. I don't really like those odds. The damage it does, the astral damage is pretty shitty, and the 5 astral power that it generates is crap. I can't imagine this being used, to be perfectly honest, outside of the fact that it is a passive ability, so it's less that you have to do when it comes to dealing with your stuff here. With that, your Astral Communion, this is an instant cast. It's got a really random 1.0 3-minute cooldown. It does generate 75 of your astral power. Definitely something that you want to consider adding into your rotation, of course, versus the shooting star, which in my opinion is just something lame that they put in there. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't know, but it feels like given the other choice, it would not be that one. Your Blessing of the Ancients. This is going to be, these are instant casts. Gain a Blessing of the Ancients, activating or swapping between one of the two of the following beneficial effects. So your Blessing of Elune increases astral power generated by Solar Wrath and Lunar Strike by 40%. That's huge in my opinion. And your Blessing of Anshi grants 2 astral power every 2.3 seconds. This, I don't know how we feel about that, but I feel like this is a pretty beefy thing to have. Not really sure which one you would choose. I do not balance Druid. Most of my alts, I run healers because I main Destro. So I've done balance for in Warlords of Draenor, but not enough to really have a strong consensus of what you would choose. I do prefer the Blessing of the Ancients as far as for the abilities that it does offer, but I'm assuming Astral Communion, with it generating so much astral power and that cooldown, could definitely be something that could be used on a situational basis. Now, the last and final tier, you're looking at Fury of Elune. This calls down a beam of pure celestial energy at the target location, dealing a good amount of astral damage every 1 second until your astral power is exhausted. Now, while the Fury of Elune is active, you may recast it for no cost to direct the beam to move to a new location. So you can recast this if your location is moved and it doesn't charge. Does not cost. Your Stellar Drift is a passive ability. Now, this increases Starfall's radius by 30%, Starfall's damage by 20%, and then allows you to cast while moving within Starfall radius. Seems like that's a pretty strong ability. Probably something that you would probably consider adding to your rotation for a lot of situations, including solo gameplay. Nature's Balance. This is a passive ability. Aligns the power of the moon and stars, causing Lunar Strike to extend the duration of your moonfire by 5.4 seconds. This is nothing to slouch at, guys. The Solar Wrath to extend the duration of your sunfire by 3.6 seconds. This can make or break the difference between something dying and something not dying if this is something you choose to put in your rotation. So I definitely would consider it, and I do feel like that a lot of these things are pretty strong when it comes to your Druid abilities. Balanced Druids overall are pretty powerful. They do have Druids in general, because they can heal themselves. Druids are just amazing. They're so usable with a lot of utility all over the place, especially when they're played correctly. I'm just gonna give you guys a little quick. Here's some of the talents you can expect as a PvPer using balance, but I will be doing separate videos on PvP because that's a whole other beast, given the fact that you have to level your honor in order to be able to get these specific talents. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So while I have you here, I do have, you guys will notice, I do have the Scythe of Elune. This does give you a lot of power, as all your artifact weapons on any class that you do have in spec is going to be pretty legit. Here's your new condensed menu if you haven't watched previous videos. Want to make sure that you guys did see the new menu, the way that looks. So let's just, I'll give you some of your abilities here, just so that you can see some of the animations and the way that plays out. I don't know if you guys have been able to look and see the way things are going. Here's this beautiful stellar flare. This is so awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the spell animation on that one for sure. And of course is your healing touch. Everybody likes to be touched, guys, even if it's in a healing matter. Don't make this weird. Celestial alignment, of course. Here's what you're looking at as far as your being a balanced druid, as far as the spell animations go. I'm just gonna hit this one more time because this makes me happy. I really like that stellar flare. We're just going to mass entangle all the stuff just for shits and giggles. So this is pretty much what you guys are looking at as far as your animations for balanced druids. If you're watching this video, do me a favor and give it a like, because it earned a like, guys. It deserves a like. I give you guys my all, and this was one of those moments of giving you my all. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm being facetious. All right, so make sure you guys watch the channel. I am going to be doing all the druid abilities here shortly. Here's what we all know and love, the Starfall. Starfall is the bane of my existence as a druid. It could go really bad really quickly. It's one of those moments where you're like, oopsie. But I will be uploading all the other videos, so make sure you guys watch the channel. If this is your first time visiting PWNCAST, make sure you give us a subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time.